Football Manager 2026 is amazing, but it doesn't explain anything. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or have been playing for years, we all make the same mistakes. Today, in just a few minutes, I'll show you everything you need to master Football Manager 26 from day one. Game Setup. New game. When starting a game in Football Manager 2026, how you configure it determines how fun, realistic, and smooth your experience will be. That's why we're going straight to the important stuff. We're going to configure the transfer mode, with transfers as they happen in real life or transfers based on real-time events. This includes transfers that occurred before your start date, which will be made as they happened in real life. In advanced options, the most noteworthy setting is the ability to hide player attributes. If you activate this, you'll only see a player's attributes if your staff has scouted them. Otherwise, you'll only see approximate attributes. This adds realism, difficulty, and forces you to make better use of scouting. For many experienced players, this is the right way to play Football Manager. Now let's configure the leagues that will be simulated in the game. The more leagues you add, the larger the player database will be, but the speed at which the day's progress will be slower. I recommend adding leagues that are important due to their proximity or importance in your continent, or because they have teams with excellent youth academies. For example, if you're going to Europe, activate the league you'll be playing in and the top 5, plus some with good youth systems like those in the Netherlands, Brazil, and Argentina. Basically, it's a balance between speed and player database size. You can also configure women's leagues. To add or remove them, you need to check the current setting. If you want to be able to play them, set it to Playable. Otherwise, set it to View Only. Also, change the start date of your game. I recommend starting as soon as possible to play friendlies with your chosen tactics and quickly build team cohesion and tactical familiarity, leading to better results at the start of the league. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, let's wait and start your game in Football Manager 2026. Setting up your manager. This part is very important. Customize your manager's appearance however you like. When you get to the point of selecting their nationality, choose whatever you want. However, if you choose Greek nationality, as I did, and you're going to manage England, it's important to set the manager to speak English to avoid problems in the locker room. Now, the most important thing, reputation level. Football Manager 26 has a reputation system. Every club, every player, every manager. Everything has a reputation. You have to configure it depending on the level of competition for the club you're going to select. For example, if you're going to choose Barcelona, you should indicate that you had previous experience as a player, which will raise the manager's reputation level and, obviously, the highest license. Because if you choose Barcelona with a low reputation level, the players won't respect you in the locker room. You can also set the reputation to the maximum even if you're going to a small club. It's a choice whether you want to progress gradually with your manager or have everything maxed out from the start. Let's move on to coaching styles. This is essentially what style your coach will use to train the players best. You can choose a maximum of 3. But be aware that it can also affect your tactics. They're basically like bonuses. The manager's personality is also key, because each player has a different personality, and this will also affect how they train the players. Once that's done, we can start our game. Responsibilities. One of the best things you can do at the beginning of your Football Manager adventure is to delegate responsibilities. Especially at the start, it's a good idea to give your assistant tasks like training sessions, press conferences, or hiring staff. This takes responsibilities off your hands that are difficult to understand at first or don't contribute much to the game. For example, training sessions do affect the game, but there won't be much difference compared to doing them yourself. The most important thing you can do is increase team cohesion by using cohesion training or distribute the training load more evenly among your players. But player progression won't change much. So don't worry too much about training sessions. Hiring good staff is important. Coaches, scouts, and medical personnel. If your staff is good, it will greatly facilitate your progress. It's best to look into fitness coaches and physiotherapists, as I think they are the most important in the game. But as I said, At the beginning, it's best to delegate and not do anything yourself, as it's a lot of tedious work. Squad management. Once we know what we're going to be responsible for, it's time to look at the squad. Here, in the squad planner, you'll see how many players you have for each position. Use a common formation for this, like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. This way, we'll see all the positions clearly. I also recommend checking the reserves and youth team from the beginning. There might be hidden players in your academy or B team who could be useful or sellable. You have to keep in mind your country's registration requirements. Check if you can fit all the players on the list, because you might be surprised later and not be able to register your players, especially if you make signings. I'll explain that player attributes are measured from 1 to 20, with 20 being the highest. The star rating simply reflects how the staff sees your player's value to your team. That's why Pedri might be a 4-star player for Barcelona, but a 5-star player for Everton. In other words, you shouldn't be so swayed by star ratings, but rather by the player's attributes. Star ratings don't reflect how good a player is. Contract renewals. Keep an eye on release clauses and contract expiration dates to prevent players from slipping through your fingers. Tactics. Once you've reviewed the squad, you'll have a general idea of your playing style, having seen the players you have and their respective attributes. Here you have two options. You can try to create your own tactics through trial and error, or you can use the suggestions from your staff, which should be the best fit for your team. Here you can organize your team, positioning each player in the desired role and position on the field. The tactics must be logical. If you plan to use different formations when you have possession versus when you don't, be careful, as this can sometimes create imbalances. The game will alert you to this with an exclamation mark. Simply move the player to a closer position. In the team instructions, you'll see how your players will be positioned in each area of the field, depending on the roles you've assigned, giving you a clearer overview when positioning them. Finally, in this section, experiment with the instructions you give your team. Obviously, you can vary them depending on the opponent, but with some logic. In this case, having chosen the suggested tactics, you already have the instructions more or less configured. As you can see on the screen, I'm playing tiki-taka, which consists of patiently waiting for spaces to open up through many passes. It's important not to change the tactic too frequently, as familiarity is very important, and this is gained through training but especially by playing matches with the same tactic. You also have to understand that tactical intensity needs to be adjusted throughout the match. It's very risky to maintain high intensity in a match you're winning by a large margin. You'll only tire the players more quickly and increase their risk of injury. You can adjust this through tactical instructions, the pressure you apply, and your playing style. Player development. As I explained before, star ratings don't reflect a player's true quality. For that, we need to look at their attributes. The game's built-in editor lets you see if a player has high potential, with the maximum being level 200. Player progression is influenced by the following factors: the number of minutes played, the level of competition, it's not the same playing in the Spanish First Division as in the Fourth Division, and their teammates. For example, a striker playing for Barcelona is more likely to score more goals than a player on a lower-ranked team, and therefore will progress faster. Keep in mind that player progression can also vary depending on the game. While a player's potential is fixed at the start of the game, reaching that maximum depends on several factors. The most important is the number of minutes played for the first team. That's why you'll find players in every game who have very high potential but are stuck halfway because the AI hasn't given them a chance, since they're on big teams. They've been stagnating for 4 or 5 seasons and are now too old to improve much. Finally, not everyone develops quickly. A wonder kid might not progress for 2 seasons in one game, but then suddenly explode in the third. Or they might be the next Messi from the very first season. That's what makes every game fun. Morale, dressing room dynamics, and press. Morale is key. Team spirit and individual morale can make all the difference in important matches. Identifying dressing room leaders, the most influential players, is crucial. These are the players who need to be the happiest, otherwise, everything is more likely to fall apart. Manage press conferences strategically. Don't always give the same answer. Adapt your message depending on whether the season is going well or badly. Maintaining a positive atmosphere and strong team cohesion is essential for achieving better results. Everything improves over time and without disgruntled players. My recommendation is not to overhaul the entire squad during the transfer window, as team cohesion and tactical familiarity will suffer significantly. Having players who speak the same language is a huge asset in the dressing room. Ultimately, you have to remember that this is a real-life simulator, and every detail matters. While you can always send a player on a language course, it will take time to learn the language and, therefore, to adapt. Finances. The most important aspect of finance in Football Manager 26 isn't how many players you sign, it's how much you pay in wages. Wages are your #1 enemy. Keep your wage bill low, sign young players on small salaries, and sell them when needed. The best way to rebuild a team or create a great one is to understand that you have to buy cheap and sell dear. You can always replace any player, and there will come a point where you can sign stars. The thing is, the longer a player stays at the club, the higher their salary will be, and their reputation can rise beyond what the club can afford in wages. Be very careful with players from the Saudi Arabian League, as they tend to demand very high salaries. Use installment payment clauses to avoid going broke, review all hidden bonuses before signing a contract, and avoid huge squads. It's better to have a small squad and give playing time to academy players than a large squad that doesn't benefit your finances. And remember, your finances truly improve when you enter continental competitions like the Champions League. There, the economy improves thanks to sponsorships, television rights, and prize money. A few years of consolidation in European competition and your finances skyrocket. For teams with existing debt, the priority is to reduce that debt. Spend as little as possible on transfers, go as far as possible in European competitions, and maintain your prestige. Most teams with high debt receive a lot of money, so with good management, the debt can be reduced to zero in just a few years. Scouting. Our goal with scouts is to help the game offer you better and cheaper players. Expand your search based on your budget. I recommend focusing on continental leagues if you're on a tight budget. However, you can acquire many excellent players with high potential and low prices by scouting South American leagues. For just a few million, you can sign players who would cost 3 times as much in Europe. When targeting specific areas, don't send scouts randomly. Create targeted missions. Look for bargains, players with 1-year contracts or transfer-listed players. Look for specific roles. For example, an attacking fullback with 15+ acceleration and crossing. Look for budget-friendly prospects. Under 21 players with high potential and low prices, under 2 million in leagues with a low reputation. Transfers. The primary objective here is to spend little while buying quality players and sell any player for a high price. How to pay less for a player. Offer add-ons instead of paying upfront. Payment plans, matchday clauses, performance-based clauses, target release clauses, Liga Portugal, Brazil, Argentina. There are always players with low release clauses there. Make low offers to players with low morale or who aren't getting playing time. Here you can get players for 3 times less than their usual value. Take advantage of the last few days of the transfer window, as the AI lowers prices or even offers players for free. Now, let's see how to sell players for more money. Many don't know this, but it's invaluable. Ask the agent to find a club. This opens up the market for the player. Offer the player, but at a reasonable, not inflated, price. Or even offer to pay half their salary when selling them in the first season. This allows players with very high salaries to leave the club. Remember that if he stays at the club and doesn't play, he'll get angry and the atmosphere in the locker room will suffer. Include useful clauses. Percentage of future sale. Bonus for appearances. I'm going to explain Regens and Newgens to you. The best ones come from academies with high-quality facilities. The best countries for Newgens are Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, England, and Serbia. Run automatic annual scouting on March 10th for South American Regens and April 1st for European Regens. Youth Academy. The most important thing here is the facilities. Your youth academy depends on three things, and these are the ones that no one explains well. Youth facilities. They determine how good your Newgens are in the youth intake. Youth recruitment. With the head of youth development, the better the facilities, the better the youth players you can produce. You can always request improvements to youth facilities and training from the board whenever possible. Each country has its fixed arrival day for Newgens. On that day, you receive between 8 and 16 players generated by your youth academy. Your country and your recruitment determine the average quality. The best countries for producing youth players: Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, England, Serbia, Netherlands. A key is having a head of youth development with high professionalism, experience working with young players, high determination, high motivation, a good personality. This type of person shapes your entire youth academy. How to develop young players correctly. Young players with playing time improve much more than those who train alone. Promote them to the first team early if they have the quality, or only send them out on loan if they are going to be starters. Important rule: if the club doesn't guarantee you a key player/regular starter, don't loan them out. They need to play. How to identify young players worth developing. This is what differentiates a casual player from someone who masters Football Manager. Don't look at the star ratings. Look at this: key attributes for the role, even if they are only 13 to 14. Determination, 14+. High professionalism, you can tell by their personality. Important matches, discarded if they lack consistency. Head of development's projection, their opinion is the most reliable. When to promote them to the first team. Ideally, at 16 to 17, they train with the first team occasionally. At 17 to 18 minutes in cup matches. At 18 to 19, regular substitutes. At 19 to 20, they should already be able to compete. If they don't stand out by 20, they rarely become a star. Although you can always loan them out, I would loan them out from 18 onwards. However, if they already stand out at 16 or 17 but don't fit into your team, you can always loan them to a lower-ranked team in the first division or a higher-ranked team in the second division. And that concludes our complete guide to mastering Football Manager 2026 without overcomplicating things. Remember, the most important thing isn't star players, but rather attributes, team cohesion, and long-term planning. Apply these tips from day one and you'll see your team progress realistically and effectively. If you enjoyed this guide, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any Football Manager 26 tips. See you in the next video, and may your players always perform at their best.